I just found a church you are all going to want to join. But here's some necessary background first. Tennessee is a state run by Republicans, which means they don't want to make it easier for everyone to vote. Unlike some states that are sending out absentee ballots to all registered voters in light of the pandemic, Tennessee officials require residents to give a reason if they want an absentee ballot. Maybe they're older, or they have a disability, or they decided it's impossible or unreasonable to vote in person due to COVID. But if you're someone who just wants to vote early, doesn't work. Why make voters go through all that? Perhaps because Republicans are worried that making voting easier will benefit Democrats, which isn't even true. The hurdle of requiring an excuse, though, would disproportionately affect people who can't take election day off of work, or who don't have cars, or who are more likely to have something come up unexpectedly on election day. If you believe those people are more likely to vote for Democrats, then there's an incentive to keep this particular hurdle in place. But it turns out that of all the excuses they will accept, there's one in particular that stands out. You can obtain an absentee ballot if you are observing a religious holiday that prevents you from voting in person during the early voting period and on election day. So what would happen if you created a church whose only purpose was to meditate on the nature of voter suppression and corruption, and whose holidays just happen to be whenever people in Tennessee are allowed to vote? One 27-year-old man set up a church to do just that. It's called the Church of Universal Suffrage, and it is an officially registered nonprofit religious organization that exists purely to circumvent voter suppression in Tennessee. Tim Jacobs is an employee at the state's Department of Environment and Conservation, and he set this church up earlier this month. Technically, there's a location for church services, but wouldn't you know it, all services have already been canceled for the foreseeable future due to the pandemic. But he posted this on Facebook recently, and I'm pretty sure that counts as a service. The beauty of this church is that all members, and anyone can be a member, can simply tell Tennessee officials their religion considers Election Day a holiday, therefore they need an absentee ballot. What are Republicans gonna do? Get in the way of religious liberty? I mean, yeah, they totally would if they could get away with it, since this church isn't promoting Christianity, but it'll be a lot harder. I talked to Tim Jacobs this week, and he told me he's not trolling. He believes voting is an inalienable right as endowed by our Creator, quoting the Declaration of Independence. That is as good a basis for a church as anything. He said hundreds of people have already signed up as members, and he has ministers in half the states in the country, meaning people who told him they want to take on a leadership role and recruit other members. That means there is a push to make sure people have religious excuses to vote early in any state where officials require an excuse. And before anyone accuses him of scamming people, unlike other churches, this one doesn't want your money. Instead, it asks people to donate to charity instead. Even if you think this is a form of satire, it's not all that different from John Oliver's Our Lady of Perpetual Exemption, which was formed to show the flimsiness of the IRS's definition of a church, or the Universal Life Church, which helps people get ordained so they can perform a wedding ceremony in states that limit that role to religious leaders. There is a point to it. The church reveals a sad truth about our broken elections, that in order to make sure everyone can participate, it may require us to game the system. Because when the system is rigged, sometimes cleverness can provide temporary relief, at least until more progressive politicians can fix the law. This church is clever. I wish we didn't need it at all, but I'm glad it's here. You can become a member or minister using the link in the description.